Recently, the SF2 scene has gone through a lot of changes. Originally, I made a video talking about a bunch of problems in our scene that went mostly untalked about. I can't lie, I was partially scared to make that video. I mean, one of the biggest points was the laziness in our scene, so there was a chance that nothing would even happen. But to my surprise, within the first day, and a couple hours honestly, many of the people in the community, including players, TOs, and figureheads, all immediately got together to make change. Nobody ignored it or took it as a personal attack. Everyone just banded together and it was cool to see. I actually already made this script where I basically went over every change that happened, but then I got to one topic and I basically couldn't stop talking about it. So I thought, hey, why not just make an entire video about it? Obviously the other stuff is just as important, like increased unity, better matchmaking, improvements in FFC, yada yada. I think all that is very awesome to see, and seeing everyone making the effort to improve the SF2 experience is great. But there's something that I feel is going unrecognized and is arguably the biggest and greatest change, and that's the tournament structure. I genuinely find it really weird that I'm not even hearing about it, like in a good way, a bad way. Conversation is just kind of not existent at this point. Right now I want to talk about what changed and how incredibly shocked I am that it even happened, as well as why I think this change is perfect for both players and spectators alike. Okay, so first off, what happened? Well, initially, I felt like since the SF2 scene had no IRL events, ours were really not special by any means. It was near impossible to create a special atmosphere since we obviously were not going anywhere. Stacking that with almost every event being hosted by the same 2 or 3 people, meaning they didn't really have time to try any new things like side brackets or anything fun like that. Every event felt like a bland copy-paste of each other. The only exception were majors. Majors in quotes because, well, we'll get to that. Majors were very far and far between each other, but damn did they leave an impression every single time. Just Vibin, Betaversary, Monty Sunday Series, Summit, all of these felt distinctly different from each other in advertising to side brackets to prize pools to the sheer number of entrants. These events felt like they mattered more than everything else, which comes to the main problem. They didn't, or at least hardly mattered more. Obviously, entrance is gonna change that a little bit. Besides entrance, nothing else about these majors were more valued than any other event. This problem caused the entire tournament scene to become filled with mindless zombies who grinded every event. Godly. Players were basically forced to attend everything because if they wanted to stay on top or keep their seed, you basically needed to enter every single small tournament. Thus, if you wanted to follow the scene as a spectator, you also needed to watch these half-assed events every single week. Everything was important and it was boring, stressful, and taxing on everyone involved. Well, after it got brought up, a bunch of leaders in the scene actually decided, yeah, it was time for a change. And what a change it was gonna have to be, because this was not a simple flip of the switch change. A lot needed to happen. The final decision was to officially split majors from casual events. This was exactly the way it needed to go, because now people could focus on larger events and only attend the smaller ones for extra practice. Otherwise, it wasn't a huge deal to miss them. A lot more time could be dedicated to these larger events, which meant advertising, side brackets, and prize pots could be thought up and executed with a lot more time and thought than before. Since if you had a lot of good ideas for a tournament and had a lot of resources to get it officially labeled as a major, you could easily get people to attend, whereas before, there was a good chance your event could just be completely overlooked. However, this decision would also bring just as many problems as it would solve. First of all, making it so that attending everything didn't matter means non-majors would become borderline dead. Why enter a tournament if nobody was even gonna care, right? Even if people did join, there was a good chance that it was gonna be a very small tournament with relatively unknown players. From any new player looking in, this would be a pretty awful first look at the scene. Another issue that would come is a lack of people who would actually want to host new events. Like I said, we used to rely on the same couple people hosting these events, so this would mean a good amount of people would have to step up and host their own events. Even though a lot of people maybe would want to host a major, it was a big ask to tell someone to host a non-major that was basically destined to have low entrance and little recognition. In a community where the main criticism was laziness, this was not a big request, but an enormous one. So now we're in a spot where out of the blue, we switched the entire way the tournament scene functions. And we would need a ton of people in our already small community to step up and host new events, and also attend events so that the entire community doesn't just heal over and die until the next major. I love the idea, but I had zero faith that we could actually get it to work. And after a couple of months of trial period, I can't be more impressed and excited about the outcome. Beyond expectations, everyone, and I mean everyone who needed to step up, stepped up. As far as tournaments go, a bunch of the majors that used to be considered big before finally got that label as a major that they deserved. So a lot of tournaments were already set up, but quickly many were added thanks to the help of some people. Thus, Godly's Invitational and Advent's Resurrection were born, and they were ran really well, so that was really great to see. But the real challenge was gonna be the weeklies. Similar to majors, some existing tournament series claimed the non-major roles, such as Smash Island and FFC After Dark. These were good, but it's not like we could use these things to cover every week forever. But then, people stepped up. Genshin was the first really big tournament series, and it actually became a weekly, which was pretty much unheard of at the time. Some unfortunate things happened to the crew, so it didn't last for very long. But it was not only the first proof that this could work, but it was also encouragement for people so that they could be like, oh yeah, this is a thing. After that, we saw J-Mac rise up and host his own weekly series called Mac and Cheese Weeklies. Then after that, Tiller hosts his own bi-weekly, Tiller's Thursday Tour. Two consistent events were huge for the scene, and they were quite different from each other. Mac and Cheeses are, in my opinion, more of a fun, casual event. After all, this wasn't a one-day thing. For the next 3 days, there would be a doubles bracket and an amateur bracket, adding to the let's just have fun vibe. While Tiller's Thursday tours felt a little bit more serious. His series had a small but noticeable prize pot of 25 buckaroos, and many more of the top players would join these bi-weeklies. Honestly, a great combination having these two run simultaneously while waiting for the main brackets. Also real quick, not relevant, but what a dub for the top players. Often they were being called lazy for doing nothing in the scene besides playing, but Godly, Tiller, and J-Mac hosting events and streaming beat those allegations for sure. Anyway, those two stepping up, taking the non-major position was just what we needed, and mix that with the couple spontaneous random tours in there, and it's looking really good for us right now. Well, if there are events in both major and smaller roles, did this actually affect the feel of the tournaments? Yeah, they felt so much different. First off, with the entrance, we did see a significant fall off in non-majors. It sounds bad, but after all, it's what we want. We don't want everyone to feel forced to enter everything. It's a matter of, did those tournaments survive? Short answer, yes, and perfectly. No longer are we seeing every big name at these smaller tournaments, but we're almost always seeing at least one in the top 10 in attendance, which is beyond amazing. Because of this, these weeklies get transformed into something more like a regional. This is because now we're seeing top players attend. So we still get to look at them and hope for upsets, or at the very least, we'll get a good understanding of how the tournament will go, and it'll give us a storyline to follow. Hell, at this most recent Tiller's Thursday tour, we saw Vale upset Tiller in Grands, taking 2 sets in a row to upset the tournament. Stuff like that gives us a reason to still follow the weeklies, giving them just a tad bit more spice than you'd expect. As far as majors go, oh my lord, this change just revitalized my interest in tournaments, to the point where I've been tempted to enter again. Regardless, the number of people at these events are very impressive, since they're clearly going to be more advertised and hold the most value. This means people are basically training for this moment. The best of the best are attending, and it sets a vibe that is just unmatched anywhere else. Now that they're separated months apart, these events feel like a much bigger deal than they used to be. Tournament day comes and it feels like an event. People are in VCs getting warmed up, talking about brackets, entering last minute. Oh, it's great. I feel the energy. Everyone's excited to get to prove themselves and put their practice to show. Being forced to wait builds up so much hype for these majors, and getting to experience them with everyone, witnessing people's pop-offs, hype, salt, pride, and genuine appreciation for the game really brings me back to when I first joined the scene, and I love it. There's so much more I could go on about these tournaments, but I don't want to run your ears off. I am so honestly glad that our scene banded together in the way it did, to improve not only the tournaments, but everyone's experience here in general. A lot of the change happened over the course of a couple months, so that's probably why we haven't seen a lot of people talking about it. But I do think we deserve a little bit of praise after all these hellish months, especially how we've lived through this patch without an update for so long. But that's a topic for another day. Anyway, thanks for watching me gush, guys. Have a nice day and peace out.